What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Friday. It is the last Friday that we won't have a Titans regular season game to preview for, well, just 4 weeks because they have the early bye in week 5. But it'll be a lot of fun next Friday as we preview Titans and Bears. And so with the holiday coming up, we've got a lot of things to tackle before Titans and Bears. No show on Monday for Labor Day. So today, Sam, we're going to define success for the Titans this season and hear from both head coach Brian Callahan and GM Rand Carthon as they were asked questions about defining success at their press conference this week. And also we'll discuss really what Brian Callahan says he thinks will propel them to have a successful season this year in 2024. So it's going to be a good show. Going to have a lot of interaction with you guys. And then after we all put the label on how do we define success, what's the biggest variable to that success, whether they're going to hit it or fall short of success this season. It is a Friday, which means ain't that good news to wrap up our week, to send you guys to a long holiday Labor Day weekend. College football is back. My gosh. I will just make a rule. College football being back is not allowed to be your good news as a whole. If you want to get deeper into the weeds, maybe your team's 1-0, whatever that is, you can go more specific. But just, college football's back. Nope, not allowed. Not allowed. Sam is putting up the 1-0 there for his team. So we'll talk about that later on. So going to be a good show today here, Sam, to wrap up a big week. So let's get it going.
Yeah, good show this morning. Love it when we get to this time of the year, Austin. We can have some of these big picture conversations looking forward to the 2024 season and exactly what the Titans will look like. It's crazy that after today, we will have only 4 shows on this morning show before we have a Tennessee Titans game in the regular season to react to. So that is very fun. Going to be a good show this morning. Before we get into it, make sure everybody watching shares the show. So if you're watching on YouTube, take your YouTube link, find a friend, a Titans fan, a group chat, somebody who just needs a little football IQ and a little more education, and send them the show this morning. Get them involved and introduce them to A to Z Sports. That's a great way to support us, a great way to have somebody else join the A to Z Sports family. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can do the same thing by hitting the share button in the bottom right corner. So share the show. Don't forget to like the show. That helps us out as well before we kick things off here on a Friday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter for A to Z Sports.com. And we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also, hit us up on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, and you can get a quote today to lower your rates, get better coverage for you, your family, whatever your situation is. Use our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ. All right, so we're going to dive into defining success for the Titans, how we all individually will define success for the Titans. Maybe we come up with a consensus on labeling success. Maybe we don't. We'll have to kind of talk that through, and then we'll talk through some of the variables of success for this team. But before we dive into Titans talk, I did want to, and Sam, you as well, want to identify the tragic event that happened in sports and across the NHL last night. Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew Gaudreau tragically killed in a biking accident on a highway in their hometown in New Jersey. Brock Kraft, I saw, rip Johnny Hockey. Johnny Gaudreau is a very good player and a superstar in that league, and you don't get the name Johnny Hockey without having a tremendous impact. And at 31 years old, with his brother Matthew, also a hockey player at 29 years old, just absolutely gut-wrenching. And if you read any more details, I tweeted out a link, local New Jersey article about some of the more details, a suspected drunk driver. You guys can, it made me nauseous, to be honest, to read it. And the Gaudreau brothers were also set to be groomsmen in their sister's wedding tonight. and that just makes everything hit even more intensely. Just the worst. I mean, you can't even describe how bad that must be. And Columbus Blue Jackets family tweeted that out as well. So, Sam, I don't know if you have any thoughts or anything, but absolutely just horrific news.
Yeah. No, I know Matthew Gaudreau is a minor league hockey player right now. I don't know a ton about his personal life, but no, Johnny Gaudreau as well has 2 daughters under the age of 2, 2 little girls and a wife. And so, scrolling Twitter this morning after we planned the show here, Austin, seeing that news, horrible in any context, obviously, and ridiculously tragic. And then, I saw a picture of the family, saw a couple of those details that you mentioned as well. And it, had me a little bit rattled this morning for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely an impactful athlete, but somebody who has been, both of them people that have just been raved about, and they're big stars in New Jersey and beloved by all. So did want to take time, like you said, to acknowledge that news this morning and, send hearts and our thoughts out to the Gaudreau family as just unbelievable kind of news.
Yeah. Yeah. One of those things that you see the notification and you're just like, no, like that's not going to happen. Like, yeah. So just awful. All right. So flipping the script here to Tennessee Titans talk in the quickest way we can transition from that strategy to back to the planned show. So the Tennessee Titans obviously have been insanely busy this week. I mean, they had all their roster cuts. They've added 3 waiver claims at this point now, adding a former Colts defensive back yesterday. They've cut more guys, added Cedric Gray to injured reserve. They traded for Ernest Jones. They traded away Elijah Molden, something that we didn't have a chance to get to yesterday on the show. But Elijah Molden gone after being the starting safety about a month ago.
Yeah.
And then you bring in Jamal Adams, you bring in Quandre Diggs, and and Elijah Molden now going to the Chargers for another chance to have an opportunity there. Rashad Weaver getting cut too. And whether he's going to be back on the practice squad or not, that was one of the more surprising cuts that we had after the 53 was set. But a lot of things moving. Rand Carthon very busy, and Callahan, all this newness. A big press conference the other day in Nashville Wednesday afternoon. And one of the topics that we kind of saved for today is about how they define success. And Paul Kaharski asked the question to both Rand and Callahan about a lot of nuance of a lot of the new faces and the new parts and pieces to this and how they're going to work through this. But here is the start to the conversation on defining success for this 2024 Titans team.
For both of you, please. Chad said it way back at the owners' meetings that when we were talking about the definition of success this year, that it was broadly based on how fast so much change gelled. And you've had probably more change since then than any of you expected in terms of veteran additions. How much do you think that is the key to this year, and how many different directions can that go?
Yeah, anytime you're adding new players, new faces, new people, you're looking at change, and you're looking at get relationships that you have to build. And I feel really good about the ones we've built so far, and then we'll add in the guys that we've added in and keep pushing forward. That's sort of the name of the game, and I think we got the right people, which I think is what makes the biggest difference. Is we got really good people on the roster, on our coaching staff, on our team, and people that I think are really good at building relationships. And so, yeah, it's always a part of it. I'm not going to gloss over it and say that everyone just comes in and on the same page at every second, every moment. It takes work, and the guys that have been here have worked at it, and we'll continue to work with the guys that we add. So it'll always be in progress, I think, as every year you add more players and new players come in and old players leave, and that's just sort of the nature of the NFL. And so that's why every year I think is a new team, and whether you even when you have returning players coming back, each year your team is different. There's different pieces, different people around a team, and you have to keep finding out what your team is for that season. And that's what our job is, and that process is ongoing.
And to add to that, I would say, it's a testament to the leaders that we have on this team. Guys like Jeff, who is, Obviously, he's always been a leader here, but to see where he's grown as a leader and doing things to getting the defensive unit together and those guys spending time together, you see that a lot, and you kind of see that within the relationships as guys flow throughout the building, and the same thing with Will, with the offense and those guys spending a lot of time together. So, like Brian said, we have a lot of people here who value relationships, not just from our side of the building, but in the locker room, and all those guys have continued to work within each other. And I had a conversation with Jeff last week, and he was just telling me that he feels really strongly about the locker room and and how the guys are amongst each other. And I mean, they are a cool group to be around. I mean, Calvin, and you see this out at practice every day. After practice, you see Calvin and T Boyd, out running sprints together. Those guys never played together before, but they've created that relationship, that bond, within each other, as well as other position groups. You see, Tajay and Tony, how they're joined at the hip, at every turn. And so that's pretty consistent across our roster.
So there's a lot there, Austin. Yeah. Very interesting, because the Titans looking to define success in 2024. And, I think as we kind of went over yesterday, most of the fan base and people around Nashville right now and around this team are feeling overwhelmingly positive and excited for things to get going. And they love what Rand has done. They love what Amy has done. They've loved everything they've heard from the new head coach and Brian Callahan, and yet none of it has actually happened yet. None of it has played yet. There's a lot of variables at place. There's a lot of new faces. And as exciting as all of these additions might be for Tennessee, as we say, oh, they added this guy and 7 new defensive starters, and this new wave of talent comes onto this roster, that gets me fired up. But it also, we have to recognize, is going to mean that everything sort of has to gel. There is no continuity to this roster right now, and continuity is your best friend in the National Football League. So kind of interesting analysis of hearing Callahan and Carthon talk about that very risk that kind of comes with what they've done this offseason. And I guess what the Titans are banking on is that the players that they've acquired, the coaches that they've brought in, the new pieces, the new cogs in this wheel are the right people with the right makeup to be unselfish and pour into those around them and to have chemistry and so that it will work. And Rand has been very intentional about that as he's built this team.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think it's how they built the franchise from the top down ever since they hit that big, massive red reset button in January as Mike Vrabel exited. And it was just bringing every piece together. And you hear a lot of it in like athletic departments and college sports saying like, we all have to be rowing in the right direction, right? Like there's, the football team, the baseball team, the rowing team, the soccer team, the softball, the gymnastics, everybody's got to be going in the same, but that's, I feel like where the Titans
together, right?
Yes. Right. Yeah. One united, all of the cliches, but honestly, when it works, and you can tell. And so far it seems like it's working for the Tennessee Titans. Now, how does it translate on the field? Because it's all great that you're friends and you like each other and you've got that respect and that chemistry in the locker room. But then does that mean that Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd are catching touchdown passes and converting third downs in the games? That's what we don't quite know yet.
Yeah. And additionally, like I made this point about maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago, even when AJ Brown went to Philly and started his time in Philly. And I think the Eagles started something like 9-0 his first year with the Eagles. And AJ's in the media talking about it's different here. It's more fun to play football. I'm having fun. Raving about what it meant to be a Philadelphia Eagle. And I kind of raised an eyebrow and said, well, yeah, AJ, of course you're having fun. The Eagles are 9-0. You're catching 100, you're getting 150 yards a game and your team is 9-0. I would hope you're having a lot of fun. What are you going to do when there's adversity? When are you going to do when it's not so fun? And I think you started to see at the end of that year and throughout last season in Philadelphia as things did not go according to plan, and AJ wasn't always getting the ball, and the Eagles weren't always winning games, and there was a lot of disconnect and struggles, that it wasn't all sunshine and roses all the time. And Nick Sirianni wasn't really able to pick up the pieces and have, the season that the Eagles were hoping for. it's a big question mark for the Eagles this year on how much they're able to recover with some new staff, new changes made to their assistant coaching staff. And I say all this to say, hunt together sounds great. The Titans have no reason not to love each other right now. They went 3-0 in the preseason. Everything's positive vibes. The question with any football team is going to be, what do you do when you hit adversity? Like, how does Brian Callahan maintain a cohesive unit if there starts to be some losses and some lack of success? How do players handle not necessarily getting the playing time or opportunity that they want? And if you can overcome that, if you can maintain culture through the difficult times, that is when you have a sustained organization that will continually come out on top. And so the point is, the Titans right now are in the honeymoon phase of the Callahan Carthon era.
Yes,
everything's
absolutely.
great. You haven't had your first fight yet.
Without a doubt. And they have a pretty good challenge with the Bears and a lot of new pieces. Very similar situations with the Bears and the Titans too up there. So
absolutely. Well, and listen, the Titans' schedule at the beginning of the year, we've talked about this a little bit, but like, you get a big test early on, right? Like, you go Bears, Jets, Packers. Like, you're not coming in and getting a nice little like layup game against, the Panthers and going to get a chance to pat yourself on the back a few times over. You're going to have to come out and play really good football. I think there's a good chance the Titans start the year 3-0. I think they could start the year 0-3. Like, they have some tough games at the
or anything in between, 2-1, 1-2.
Like,
it
don't
could
know
be
where
all
it's
four.
going to go, and there's some tough games here at the beginning of the schedule, and so that would be something that I am curious about. Is like, hey, if they do start 0-1, 0-2, whatever it is, like, how does this? Because I don't think they're done. I think their schedule gets a lot easier, but how do you answer and respond from those?
For sure. All right, let's hear from Brian Callahan and how he is going to define success for this Titans team this year. But first, oh my gosh, it's almost here. The D-Hop football camp is literally 2 days away. Yes, we're coming up on it. DeAndre Hopkins Youth Football Camp. I'm going to post the link in the chat for the last time. It's the last time that you guys have an opportunity to click on this link in the chat. And then I'll also do the promo code, right? Because at checkout, you get 20% off your entire camp experience with a DeAndre Hopkins football camp. Boys and girls, ages 8 to 15, if you will. It says 9 to 15, but if your son or daughter has either flag or tackle football experience at 8, they can play at the camp on Sunday. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity at an NFL stadium, on an NFL football field, with a future Hall of Fame wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins 1 week before the NFL season starts. So, and how about this too? Like, if you use that promo code ATOZ20 at checkout, that's 20% off. So you get as low as $43 for this camp experience. You can add on VIP meet and greet. You can add on a locker room tour. You can add on field passes for family and parents as well. There's so many different options to add on, but as low as $43 for your son or daughter to enjoy a DeAndre Hopkins youth football camp. Pumped about this, Sam. You and I are going to be there. We're also going to get an exclusive interview with D-Hop for you guys too. So we're pumped about that. So that is going to happen on Sunday. We'll have that video out. Won't be live, but we'll have that video out. So an exclusive interview with D-Hop and A to Z on Sunday at the camp. So pumped about that. But let's dive back into the conversation today. And that is defining success from Brian Callahan. So he was asked the follow-up to the video we played earlier. Here is the head coach.
What will success be defined as this year? Is it winning record? I mean, that's the bottom line in this league, or is there something else that has to happen?
You're looking to build a foundation too, something that is going to be enduring, sustainable for the foreseeable future on top of that. So there's a lot of work in building the culture of the building between the coaches and players, our coaches and our front office staff, our coaching staff, our front office staff, and the rest of the building. So that's part of an ongoing process for us. And I think that what I'm looking for is to continue that, building a foundation. And then you hope that that's what propels you. I mean, we have talented players, we have talented coaches. I feel good about our team's ability to be competitive in these games that we have to play. And and we'll see how it shakes out.
Confident. I mean, Brian Callahan seems like a measured guy. Doesn't want to be too over the top, too overconfident. But I like that little moment at the end, Austin, where he kind of smiles and says, "We'll see how it shakes out." Feeling pretty good going into the season. But really, the term Callie uses to define success is foundation, building foundation. I guess your thoughts on that definition from the head coach before we get into some of these answers from the chat.
Yes. So my thoughts are just it's a intangible response, an intangible answer, because it's like how do you define success, build a foundation. Okay, now how do you define building a foundation? Well, you have to do this, and then you keep on having to follow up with, well, how do you define that? Well, what do you mean by this? And so that's where it's like, all right, how can we find out the most tangible answer to success for this Titan season? And that's the exercise that I want us to get to, because John says, like, so what's our first question? We're getting there, John. And we'll just do it now. How do you define success for this Titan season? And it's open-ended. I am okay if somebody
you can be more straight up.
Yeah, I'm totally down for you guys to be like, yeah, because they have to create the foundation or pack the snowball to push it down the hill, right? Whatever it is, I want you guys to define success for you. I don't think there's a wrong answer to start the conversation. And then what I hope we can do is mold it towards a group consensus on, okay, if they do this, we consider this a success. Now, there's variables that go into it. There's other circumstances that will present themselves, but I want us to try to get close to that here.
Yeah. I think
there's a lot of comments if you want to get to those too.
No, I do want to comment kind of on what you said, because I think I like tangible answers. At least I do. Things that are measurable. I like going into a season and understanding, look, we might be able to come with there is nuance and detail and qualifiers of everything we could potentially bring up. If your definition of success is the Titans need to win 13 games this season, right? Then that's your definition. But if they don't get to 13 and Will Levis gets hurt in week 2, it's not as big of a failure as if they, have a losing record and fall on their face with all of their starters. It all kind of depends, and there's qualifiers to all of it. Yeah. But like you said, Brian Callahan build a foundation. You would say, okay, well, what does that look like? That would be like, well, building team chemistry. What does that look like? The guys getting along, having a solid core. Okay, well, who's in the core? How do you feel good? Like, what does Will Levis have to do actually measurable wise, like to make you feel like he's the guy, if that's part of your analysis here. So there's layers to that. And I'm trying to come up with, for me, the way that I view this is like, it's black and white. Like there's a level of success that I think the Titans need to reach, but let's get to the chat.
Yeah. The chat is loaded. So I'm trying to scroll up. Here we go. So let's see. Billy starts us off. Win the division, right? That's one of them right there. Then Mario, win the division. Chef Rand, playoffs. Jay, a winning record and wildcard playoff spot is sufficient. Tyler says, better than the 2019-2020 teams. I think that's a little high. I mean, I did say, I got to listen to my own words. I did say there's no wrong answers to start this, but that's pretty close.
Well, let me just say, I don't think he's being all that far out. What is that team's record? 12-5?
Well, the 2019 team was technically 9-7, but
that was talking about going to the AFC Championship game as well.
Yeah, because they, the first 6 games they were 2-4 with Mariota. Then Tannehill took over, went on a tear, and then 2020 team was not. They were 11-5.
11-5 before the 17 games.
Yeah, but they won the division and put up ungodly numbers.
The thing that I would say is that I don't think that's all that different than the people who are saying win the division.
Yeah,
I think it takes 12 wins to win this division.
I think the hard thing about better than those two teams that Tyler said is like those two teams had 1,000-yard receiver, 2,000-yard rusher, a quarterback who threw for 30-plus
And
touchdowns.
playoff wins.
And also like won the comeback player of the year award. You had the offensive NFL player of the year, like you had the coach of the year. I guess that was the next year, but there was a lot of, awards and accolades to go along with just, what else they did. Steven says winning record in the first year. Darren gives us some good insight here. Success is the weapons for 8 to prove to be effective, meaning points. The protection holds up. The defensive additions boost the defensive production, sacks, picks, red zone stops. Look, Darren, I early in the clubhouse lead for best answer so far because of the other insight that he kind of adds there. What are your thoughts on Darren's conversation?
I understand it. I think it's probably one of the smarter ways to look at progress is, like, all right, was the offense improved? Okay. Was the offensive line improved? How did you get after the quarterback? Things like that, the Titans didn't do well last year. And if you can look and find measurable like improvements in all of those areas, you can define that as success. Sure. I would say none of those things necessarily lead to wins, which is ultimately the goal. And so there is a world where the Titans score more points, have better pass protection. Their defense gets after the quarterback more, and they still go 5-12, 6-11. And I don't think anybody's happy with that effort this season.
So I think I like what you said, because you said like that shows progress. But do you think all progress leads to success?
I don't.
Right.
Well, especially when it's like how much progress, right?
Yeah.
The Titans were really, 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 really bad in all of these areas last year. They didn't score points. They allowed almost the most sacks in the league. They had some of the fewest sacks in the league defensively. And I believe they were dead last in turnovers. So you can like correct it and improve and get back to the mean, but like is being average in a lot of categories exactly what the Titans are striving for this year?
But that kind of goes into foundation though, does it? Like making progress in those areas is part of laying the foundation.
I agree, but I think
it's not enough.
I mean, I have a higher standard with what you've done this offseason. Your foundation cannot be an average foundation. Like with as active as you've been, as the investments that you've made, with the level of excitement around this team, I think if your foundation means we're league average in a bunch of categories across the board, like, I don't know if that's good enough. I think Titans fans would be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I'm just, as Sam's talking, I'm going through a lot of comments that are a lot of similar. Winning record, making the playoffs, competing for the division. Guy says 7+ wins, which is a improvement in the win column from a year ago. Then there's several Will Levis progressions. There's a wild card, 8 wins or lead the league in 1-score losses.
Well, 8 wins or lead the league in one. I'm just going to disagree with Bork. I think a bunch of 1-score losses would not be viewed as success to many people.
Equals pain. Henry Blaze. That's a fake last name. It's got to be Henry Blaze. Give me a break. Have a chance to make the playoffs the last week of the season. I think that's an interesting way to look into it.
Yeah, listen, it's the cliche thing that I've seen pop up a few times. Somebody was like Eric commented, "Be in the hunt." A couple people were like, "Be on the graphic," like the in the hunt graphic around the holidays and whatnot. And I know that is like used as sort of a meme in culture today, but I don't think it's completely irrelevant. The idea that the Titans are hanging around and in contention late into the year would signify progress. And I do believe that ultimately is what Titans fans would be looking for, is like, let's have some meaningful football in December. So if you're sitting on your couch on Thanksgiving and the Titans are in the hunt on the playoff graphic, I think that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. As much as like the graphic itself might be more of like a meme answer.
But again, like they were in the hunt. They were on the in the hunt graphic at Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah. Were they?
Yeah. Like they weren't eliminated from the playoffs until like week 14. because that's how the NFL.
Well, eliminated is different than like.
No, they were like, in the hunt. They were technically in the hunt in a couple of those because like I remember talking with Zach and probably talking with you some last year of like, if they can beat the Steelers, then how does that set them up to be like 4-5 ish, right? And that's approaching Thanksgiving. Like they, so they were still had a shot to do something. That's just how the NFL sets the league up to be.
Yeah.
And so winning the division is success, is what Daniel said. And like, I think like, yes, that
it would be successful if you win the division, but I don't believe that's the floor of success.
Neither do I. And then Jason also says Levis playing 17 games. Like, I think that would also be successful, but I don't think that
he could play 17 bad games.
Yes. Right. And I also think he can prove a lot and prove that he's the guy without playing 17 games. I think it's really with 17 games. I honestly don't expect anybody to play 17 games like in the league. I just think understanding how the league's going, like I just don't see that being realistic for the majority of players. Now, a lot of guys will do it, but I'm not trying to set that standard of like, you have to play 17 games because stuff happens. So,
yeah.
All right, Sam, I want to get to your opinion because it sounds like you've got a lot of thought behind your answer. So defining success for this Titan season, Brian Callahan talking about the culture and this chemistry of coming together to propel them to set the foundation for success. We'll get to Sam's answers and more of yours here in a second. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute. Success is dealing with that injury, right? I just talked about, not expecting guys to play 17 games because that happens. It happens in life too. Just like you, your son or daughter, your family member, a friend, you get hurt in life because that's just what happens. And I've dealt with a few injuries over the last couple of years, and 3 times I've gone to the Bone and Joint Institute, whether it's my foot, plantar fasciitis, a little bone spur in my shoulder that needed some help, or even the knee tendonitis that I had this spring. I went to the Bone and Joint Institute in Franklin. They took care of it. They educated me on how to home rehab this so I don't have to continue to go have doctor's visits, even though that's better for their business. They're about me, not about their bottom dollar at that point. So the Bone and Joint Institute will literally do the best thing for you, whatever you need, whether it's physical therapy. If you need surgery, they'll take care of it in that spot. They've got all the experts and the resources in Franklin off of I-65 and Highway 96, right next to Williamson Medical Center. Their website is so easy to use. You go to boneandjointtn.org, you hit the book an appointment button, you type in your name, knee bothering me, then it sorts all the knee specialists, and you pick the spot that fits your calendar best, boneandjointtn.org.
All right, let's talk to BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas, because it's college football season. Austin, you brought it up at the top here. We had some college football yesterday. The Illinois Fighting Illini 1-0, and they covered. Great teams cover. We got more games coming up throughout this weekend. It's a great time to get on BetMGM with college football here, NFL around the corner. We are less than a week away now. We will have NFL regular season game played a week from today, which is cool. With the first Thursday night football game. So go get with the sportsbook born in Vegas and use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If your first bet misses, that money goes back into your account in the form of a bonus bet for a second chance to win big. Bonus code ATOZ Sports on BetMGM.com.
All right, Sam, how do you define success for this Titans 2024 team? I haven't given my answer yet, but a lot of good conversations in the chat about it. So how do you define it?
I find it funny. You said you feel like I have a really thoughtful answer.
The way you presented it earlier on, it sounded like you did.
I put a lot of thought into it. That's good. Overall, it comes down to a very simple black and white sort of thing. The Titans have to have a winning record.
Oh.
You have to win 9 games. If you fall short of a winning record, you can't say this season was a success. I don't care what happened, right? Like you can build the foundation for this team and go 7-10. You can build the foundation and go 8-9. I don't think the foundation necessarily means success. Will Levis could look good and you could not go 9-8. And I don't know if you can feel good that that's success. I won't get carried away enough to say you have to make the playoffs because I think the AFC is loaded. I think the division is going to be tough to win with how good the Texans are projecting to be. And so there's a world where you go 9-8, 10-7 and miss the playoffs. And I still think you as a Titans fan could feel really good about your season if you're not in the playoffs. But you have to have a winning record. All of the stuff that you have done this offseason, I have tipped my cap time and time again to Ran and to Callie and to Miss Amy for the additions that they've made to the roster. But when you have bolstered the defensive line, when you've completely flipped over the secondary, when you've brought in a new defensive coordinator who seems to have this thing figured out with a really aggressive physical style defense, and you get specific players at inside linebacker to fit him, you give your young quarterback, not just DeAndre Hopkins last year, but Calvin Ridley this year. You give him another veteran like Tyler Boyd in the slot and make Treylon Burks his fourth option. You build the offensive line around him. You add a new running back in Tony Pollard. So much of this team is ready to compete and win games. So much of this team is aging. By the way, I'll remind everybody that like Will Levis has 4 years on a rookie deal. We'll probably have to get paid after the third. We're going into year 2 right now. So I want to win games. I want to come away from this season feeling like the Titans are a piece or two away from being a real contender. You know, you don't want to finish this season after all the moves that you've made and all the money that you've spent, still feeling like you got to add 4 or 5 wins to get back into the mix of like the division. So that's my definition of success. You come out, you go 9-8, 10-7, whatever it is, have a winning record, and then 2025, we go. And you feel good about the Brian Callahan era. And I think that is absolutely attainable for this team. I'll have to get into the schedule and figure out what exactly my prediction for this team is. I know that's coming next week, Austin. But that's how I would define success. Winning record. I have a hard time seeing me not be disappointed if they're 7-10. Yes, it matters. The style in which they lose games. Yes, like if Will Levis gets hurt, we have to completely redefine and repackage, you know, like what success is. But you're not going to be happy with a 7-10 Titans.
Sure. So look, I think your answer is totally fair. By the way, like the show, hit that like button. We got a good audience here this morning on a Friday, the last Friday without a Titans regular season to discuss. So please hit that like button on Facebook and on YouTube. That goes a long way for us. I think, yeah, that's successful. Getting to 9 wins, even if you miss the playoffs, I think is a successful foundation building season. Excuse me. But I'm actually going to go a step backwards from where you're at, because I think if how I define success is answered and successful, it leads into your successful season. So like my defining success is a foundation to create your successful opportunity. It's Will Levis, and it's all of it is Will Levis. It's a successful season if Will Levis proves to be the guy moving forward that you have full trust in, understanding he's not going to be perfect, understanding there's still going to be growing pains because he's just going to start his 10th game 2 Sundays from now. But if Will Levis can prove at the end of the season that he is the guy without a doubt, no matter where you're drafting, you don't need a quarterback. You're now drafting for Will Levis. That is a success. If you were drafting and signing players in the offseason for Will Levis.
And they did that this offseason.
I know, but they did that as like a fail proof because, and we'll get into the variables of this, because I think if Will Levis proves to be the guy, the rest of the roster around him can absolutely win 9 or more games. So I think like my way of success leads into your way of success. If Will Levis is the guy, they should be contending for a wild card spot or better.
Sure. I mean, the reason that I agree with that last statement, the reason I would just push back on it is because I think there are for me, there's a world where Will Levis is the guy and looks good, and the Titans don't have that level of like win success. Like it is possible, right, for Will Levis to have a great year and you feel like he's absolutely the guy, and they also go 7-10. but I'm not coming away from a losing season for the Titans in 2024, a 7-10 effort, being like, I'm happy with how that season went. Why? Because Will Levis played good football. I just think there has to be a standard. And the standard for where the Titans need to be for me is winning games. If we're going to talk about culture, if we're going to talk about, the new Brian Callahan era, how you play games matters, but winning games is the most important thing at the end of the day. I think you are correct, right? Will Levis being good leads to more wins. Will Levis being good would have you feel good about your position moving forward, but you're not going to reflect back on the 2024 season and be like, oh, hey, that 2024 season, what a ride that was. We went 7-10, but man, Will Levis looked pretty good that year. No, you'll remember the winning seasons, and that's where I want to.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of I'm trying to fall in line more with what Brian Callahan is saying. It's the foundation, right? Because there is so much new into this team, and some of them absolutely are veteran new faces, but I think I'm allowing for a little bit of grace for a head coach that's doing this for the first time, a defensive coordinator who's doing this for the first time, an offensive coordinator who's in his job. Like, there's so many guys doing their jobs for the first time that are not on the field. Right. And so,
totally,
is that going to cost them a game early in the year? Because it did for Mike Vrabel, right? In 2018 and a couple times early in 2019, even Mike Vrabel's decisions cost the Titans a win or a win. And that's just flat out objective. And that was his first year and a half as a head coach.
Yeah, we have to understand growing pains. I totally agree with that. That was the
and so Will Levis could play. Will Levis could throw for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick, and the Titans can run for 150 yards and lose a game because Denard Wilson drew up the wrong play on the 3rd and 4 in the red zone for the Bengals to win by a touchdown or 4 points. Right? I don't know. Right? It could be whatever, and that's not on. That's just a fact of the sport. And that could mean that they are 8-9 instead of 9-8, or, there's a lot of those opportunities.
To me, right? I don't think there's a world where Will Levis is dominant and this awesome quarterback and the Titans don't win games. Right. So I think if Will Levis has this awesome season, they're going to be successful as a team. But the reason that you're it's all Will Levis, it's you just talked about measurable. What's measurable? What is Will Levis being the guy look like? What does that look like? Is it Will Levis throws for 4,000 yards and has this dominant season? Is it Will Levis he leads the team to winning football games while there is growing pains with his new coaching staff, while he's an imperfect, improving young quarterback who's played less than 10 games in his NFL career, and he takes a step forward, is still not incredible, but the team wins. That, I think, is far more likely than Will Levis comes out and is a top 5, top 10 quarterback in the league. I think we have to stay sort of, if we're putting all of our eggs in this Will Levis basket, I think it's going to be difficult to come away from the 2024 season and have definitive answers, because I think there will be games this year that Will Levis looks, sure enough, like the dude, like a franchise quarterback, like a top 10 quarterback in the league. There will be games that he probably does not, and that's something that we've seen at practice, where there have been great practices, there have been some bad practices of just being what is Will doing today? Or, man, Will is on point, he's awesome today.
Yeah, and at one point Patrick Mahomes sucked and the Titans waxed the Chiefs 27-3 in Nissan Stadium, right?
Totally.
That's one data point.
Well, right. But that, and that's why I'm trying to define success through a central data point, which is wins. Yeah. Right. And if Will Levis has this up and down season where he shows improvement and looks good sometimes, looks bad other times, and there's enough stability around him that they're able to win games and weather that storm and go 9-8, 10-7. They can have a successful season and feel good about where they're at, understanding that it wasn't going to snap your fingers and go 13-4 immediately.
And so Tall Texan has a comment that I wanted to chat. He says, Austin, that's a low bar for success, dude. Have some ambition. And I think I'm approaching this trying to find the lowest bar for success. Like, in my opinion, that's my point of having this. Like, because I agree, 9 wins is success. I think making the playoffs successful. I think winning the division successful. Obviously, winning a playoff game, yes. But what's the lowest bar that you're saying? Yeah, that was a successful season because of what the foundation is in this new era of Titans football that you're building on. And so the goal is the lowest bar. So I guess, were you approaching it from the same type of way? Because that's kind of what
I
think
I approach the question as season is done, right? And like, I'm looking back on the season. Am I happy with like what happened for the Titans, or do I expect more? And I can be happy with where the Titans are going in a world where Will Levis is looking really good and looking like the guy, with also feeling like you should have won more games, because if Will Levis looks like the guy and, you've built this roster around him that's supposed to be talented and give him support and be able to win games with him, like, and he looks very good, you should win games as a result. So if Will Levis is good, like you said, and you're not over 500, something went horribly wrong. Like, if you have a good Will Levis that looks definitively like your franchise quarterback in the future and you don't win 9 games, we got a problem somewhere else on the defense, on the offensive line. I don't know where it is, but something went wrong. And then, like, that's not a success, right? Right? Like, if you have such a problem that drags you down. And so I think it's more likely for Will Levis to be up and down, show some signs of progress, grow as a young quarterback, have the Titans grow as a team, build this foundation, get to 9-10 wins, and me feel like that was a good, productive season for the Titans, and that now it has to take the next step, versus having sort of an identity crisis of our quarterback is good and nothing else is working.
So I think where I push back on that, if Will Levis proves to be the guy, but then you find that the defensive line lets you down, or whatever that one thing is that kept you from getting to 9 wins or getting to the playoffs, I think why I still view it as a successful season is because now you've pinpointed what you have to fix. And there's going to be way less things that you have to fix in the offseason. Like, look at all the things that they had to attempt to fix this past offseason. So now you're going, but you've got your biggest, most important box checked. Quarterback, check. Now it's, okay, we've got these other things that are problems that kept the Titans from winning games. Now, because you checked the quarterback box, now you still have cap space to go address the other and identify and pinpoint those other issues, instead of doing shotgun spray like they did this past offseason of just getting all these veterans to come address it, right?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I said this earlier in the offseason, and I've said it before, pretty recently, that the Titans have done a good job of supporting Will Levis this year to get an answer on Will Levis. Totally. And it was like, win, loss, whatever your season is, the most important thing is figuring out, is your quarterback the guy? And that is why they've had the offseason that they've had. I agree with that is the most important thing, is figuring out, Will Levis, yes or no? And if it's Will Levis, yes, but the D-line is a problem, then the D-line is a problem. If it's Will Levis, yes, but your defensive coordinator is a problem, then whatever, offensive coordinator, whatever the issue is, right? That's good and important and something that you need. You need the answer on the QB. But that doesn't make it successful. Okay. I have elevated over the last few weeks, even the standard of success for the Titans. It is important to get an answer about Will Levis, but if you get an answer and it doesn't come with a winning record, if it doesn't come with winning football games, I don't care about the rest.
Okay, I don't good. So I'm glad that you're on that spot.
Because there's a lot of teams, my point, like, there's a lot of teams throughout the NFL that have one piece of the puzzle. They have the quarterback, they have the offense, whatever it is, and they're not able to put it together to be a successful team and a successful organization. Okay. We see that over and over again. So if you want, like, the Titans are not defined by Will Levis and what he does as an individual. They're defined by what they do as a unit.
I think I think they're going to be defined by what Will Levis.
But
is.
you could you can make the exact same argument like the other way, right? Like, I think Will Levis is this is our next question, right?
Yes.
So we can just
yeah.
ask it formally, whatever. But
I want to, because we're going to get to our next question, but I also want you to
I got a lot of thoughts here.
I know. We have a lot of thoughts. We're 50 minutes into the show. So keep your thoughts, because I have another question for you. And we're going to get to our next question about what's the biggest.
You're going to pivot the conversation.
I'm not. No, I'm going to let after. I'm just trying to stay on schedule.
All right.
Operationally, we got to stay on schedule. Whether it's
sometimes you just got to go with what's working.
All right, but real quick, the Farm Bureau Health Plan is where you should turn for all of your health coverage needs. FBHP.com/ATOZ is the link to go, because you can save money on your health coverage. You can also get better coverage for it. Don't pay out of pocket to go to the dentist twice a year. Should go to the dentist twice a year. So let your health coverage plan take care of that for you. Don't pay out of pocket for your contacts or whatever vision needs that you have. If you don't need vision, then don't have to pay for vision, because Farm Bureau Health Plans wants to set you up for your situation, for the right plan for you individually, your family, whatever it may be. They can do that because they've been serving Tennesseans for 78 years. It's a long time to keep on serving this state the best way possible, and they continue to invest in the Tennesseans across the entire state. 200 plus locations, or get a quote online, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show powered by BetMGM. BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If your first bet misses, that money goes back into your account for a chance to win big and a second chance to win with BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas.
All right, you can go back to your thoughts now about where you were going with everything.
I'm cooking the chat. I'm going off the rails here.
You're cooking the chat.
Loser talk, chat. Loser talk. I see a bunch of loser talk in the chat. A bunch of people who have no standards for this organization, who have no standards for winning games, who are saying,
I feel like the chat had higher standards than I
have losing records. No, they can't. You lose games, you're a bad team.
Sam, time out. Let me say this, because I did ask a question to the chat, and they might be answering my question, is what's the lowest bar for success? So I asked that question because I wanted to know for you, like, what is the lowest bar for success? And if you still think it's winning 9 games, then great. You still think it's winning 9 games. I think the lowest bar for success is knowing that Will Levis is your guy for the next 10 years, and you'll figure out how to pay him when you need to figure out how to pay him. But that is the lowest bar of success. Whatever the wins and loss records that goes along with that.
So, but that's different. That's different. That's organizational success versus a successful season.
Okay.
You can feel, if that is the case, you feel great about where the Titans are with Will Levis in the future. If you lose games in 2024, it wasn't a success. Like, let's have some standards, people. What are we doing?
But
we're sitting here like already coping over the fact that, well, if we go 6-11, but Will looks pretty good, then it's a success. Get that out of here.
No, I think that there is I think if Will Levis proves himself, I think there's no way they're winning less than 8 games.
I agree generally, right? Like, yes. I think that they should be attached. We were going to ask the question, like, what's the biggest variable for the Titans? I think it is Will Levis, right? Like, Will Levis is the thing that's either the big variable or the whatever. But if Will Levis looks good and it doesn't work because so much other stuff goes wrong, there's no way you look at the season and go, wow, that was a really successful season, guys. Our defense absolutely collapsed, right? Because then you got other problems to fix, and it can be fixable, sure, but it's very point blank. I don't care about any of this. I don't care about optics. I don't care about narratives. I don't care about culture. I care about wins. This stuff helps you build a winning team. A quarterback is the most essential part of building a winning team. Correct? Agree? Absolutely. But you could make the same argument and flip it on its head, Austin, and say, well, what if everything about the Titans is awesome? The scheme is awesome. The defense is awesome. Everything clicks. And Will Levis just isn't the dude. Well, then you say you're a quarterback away and you go get a quarterback and you plug him in and you feel really good about where you're going. But that doesn't matter. What matters is how this unit with this quarterback, this head coach, this culture does in games. I want W's, not L's. I go to the season wanting W's. And if I sit here in January and you're 6-11 again, I'm not saying, hey, great season, guys.
No, I agree.
Will look really good, so I'm happy with it. No, win games. It's crazy to me that I'm getting cooked in the chat for saying I want all these people in the chat, all these Titans fans, their definition of success 20 minutes ago was win the division, go 12-5. God forbid I ask for 9 wins.
No, I know. Look, I think Sam. I think the majority of the chat is with you. I think I'm the one that got called out for having not high enough of a standard. But again,
I can go back and find some things. People
that's
say
fine.
Sam lied on the job application.
Yeah,
Sam's
look, Carpet King saying like Sam's getting all fired up over here. Like I think, look, this show got spicy. I wasn't expecting this spice level today, but look, I love it. But
here's the other thing too. The other aspect of this: the Titans probably have the exact same standard of success. They can't say it. Brian Callahan's not going to get on the mic and go, yeah, we expect to be in the looking for the playoffs and winning games. It's the first year. They're giving themselves room for buffer so that they can win the optic battle if it doesn't go perfectly to plan. They do understand that there's a lot of variables at play here, and they might feel like they have a great team that doesn't necessarily gel. But I bet everything that the expectation behind closed doors in the Titans building right now is to have a winning record and be in the mix for the playoffs. And if their standard isn't that, we got to tear it down, right? So the fan standard should match that.
And I did ask everybody in the chat what the lowest bar for success is, because that's what I want to know. I want to know what's the least they have to do for us to be like, that was a successful first year under Brian Callahan with the surrounding pieces. And for me, it is knowing that Will Levis is your guy for the next 8 to 10 plus years. And that's the lowest bar. I think knowing that answer is accompanied by 8 wins or more. And so that's where I'm at. And Sam is going to go a little bit different, which is totally fine. That's why I don't think there's a wrong answer to this. I think there's a wrong answer to the lowest bar of success, but I don't think there's a wrong answer to how each individual person watching the show now or later on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch is going to answer it. I think it is wide open of how do you define this? I define it differently because as Brian Callahan said Wednesday, it's about setting the foundation, because if you know that Will Levis is the guy, now you're fixing fewer things in the offseason. You still have cap flexibility. Will Levis is still insanely cheap for 2 more seasons. You're going to pay him before the 4th one in this hypothetical scenario, but his salary is not going to explode until 2027. He's going to get a boatload of money to the signing bonus, but that's up to Amy to fork that cash over. And so I think that is a successful year, is if you find out that answer on Levis and say, well, he's a guy, we'll find out how to pay him later. But we know we're going to do it. So now you go address the weaker spots. You go get another edge rusher. You go get a younger safety, whatever those problems are. Now you at least can pinpoint a few problems instead of having to fix the entire roster and the entire offensive line like they did this past offseason.
I brought up Nick's comment. Know the question, Sam. I did know the question. And the question, as sent in an email to me before the show, the question that we first asked the chat that was copied and pasted both on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch was, how do you define success for the 2024 season? Not lowest bar. That was a pivot that Austin made. The question that was initially asked to me, how do I define success? I said 9-8. You said, Sam, what a loser. What bad takes. He wants the Titans to have a winning record. For a guy that gets cooked for being like, oh, he's a Bears fan all the time, I would think that, you guys would appreciate me having standards for your favorite team to actually have a winning record. Austin, I hear that, right? Like, you can be in a good position, but you can, every year, you could be like, hey, Will Levis is great, and the Titans aren't putting it together around him. Will Levis is great, and the Titans aren't putting, like, next year, 2025, Will Levis could get even better, and you could go 7-10, and ain't nobody saying that.
I just don't. I think if Will Levis is great, then they're winning 10 plus games.
I agree. So, like, what? But, like, my point is, I agree with you. Yes. But like, what if Will Levis is great and they win 6 games? That's not success.
I think it can't. Well, because what else? Like, why did they like? I just don't feel like let's look at the 6-win teams from last year. So I'm going to pull up the 6-win teams from last NFL season. I think I can do it off the top of my head. The teams with less than 6 wins:
Titans, Chargers,
Giants. Right? Who played like Justin Herbert played quarterback for them, but they were a disaster of an organization. They fired everybody,
and Justin Herbert was good. And was anybody looking at the Chargers being like, "Great season, guys"?
No, but that was they should have fired Brandon Staley the year before type of thing. Then you've got the Cardinals. They had Kyler Murray was out injured for the majority of the season. And then you've got the top 3 picks, the top 3 worst teams.
They might have had 5 wins, the Cardinals, but either way.
I'm saying 6 or less is what I'm going to like all like including the Titans, they all had the Chargers is the one. They had very questionable, if not garbage quarterback play. Most of them garbage. I said removing the Chargers. Yeah, but if you're talking about Titans and hell, just throw in the Falcons there that picked the 8th overall. If you go Falcons, Titans, Giants, Cardinals, Commanders, Patriots, and Panthers, those 7 teams at best had below average quarterback play. And we're talking about if Will Levis is really good, then they're going to have more than 6 or 7 wins, because teams that have really good quarterback play don't have less than 7 or 6 wins. The Chargers are different because Brandon Staley was that bad. They should have fired him the year before. That was the writing on the wall. And they went and got Jim Harbaugh. Now they're in a weird spot as a whole, but I think with what the Titans have surrounding them, it's a if Will Levis is very good or just good, they're winning at least 8 games, in my opinion.
I mean, but you could look at a lot of you could look at the 22 Green Bay Packers went 8-9 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. They had a great year. They went 8-9.
Who said they had a great year?
Aaron Rodgers had a great year.
Oh,
he went 8-9. But that's a different 8-9.
But we're not talking about but that's a letdown for the Packers situation.
So then maybe that just means my standard for the Titans is higher.
No, I think
you're a little bit farther along in this process. But I believe that with all of the things that they have gone out and gotten, all of the players that they've acquired, all of the moves that they have made, I think they need to be a winning team. If they have the Chargers year last year, where your quarterback you feel good about, you're like, hey, Justin Herbert, this is a guy when he's healthy and he's playing, he looks really awesome. And the stuff around him, whether it's the head coach, whether it's the play caller, whether it's the defense, whether it's the injuries, whatever it is, if that stuff is in such turmoil that you don't win games, that's not success. And so that's why I was pushing back on the idea that Will Levis just being good is success, because I think wins need to be attached to that. And I also think there's a world where Will Levis is not elevated to the Justin Herbert level, where he's not having this awesome top 10 quarterback season, but he is looking improved, looking solid. And the Titans as a team are playing really good football that you can come out of this season feeling like we have something to build on. And we actually won games. And that is what success is ultimately.
I agree. No, I agree. What you just said, yes, is absolutely successful. Again, I think the sole answer, I'm not trying to repeat myself. If Will Levis is the guy, then I feel good about the other things. The thing I feel less confident in, the least confident in, right now is Will Levis truly a franchise quarterback?
Sure.
That is
I think that's a fair thing to wrestle with right now.
Now, obviously, I think if the offensive line's got questions, the edge rushers depth got questions, there's stuff there, right? There's other things, but impactful conversations. I believe Bill Callahan can get more out of what they have on the O-line. But the biggest question is Will Levis truly a franchise quarterback, or is he somebody that we're going to have conversations of I mean, do you
Do
really
you
want to
pay
give
him?
him
Do you not
$50
pay him?
million a
Right.
year? Like, but no, if he answers that question, like, yep, if he's, again, I'm not trying to compare him to others, but if he is a no questions asked, he's getting a contract in the summer of 2026, then I think this year is successful because other things will fall into place around it. That means the offensive line improved. That means you got Calvin Ridley in a good investment, now the 16th highest paid receiver, and just going to get lower down that list as the contract goes on. Then that means you've got probably some good play from your tight end positions. Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard working out pretty well. The defense is probably playing better and not putting Will Levis in the offense out there on the field and after giving up a bunch of points. So I think it's a cohesive answer that if Will Levis proves to be good, then the other things you put around him, including the head coach, the play caller, and the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator, all those things are helping Will Levis answer the question of yes, he is. That therefore, successful season, wins probably follow, at least 8, likely more.
Okay.
Can we?
I mean, yeah, like Eric said, who's disagreeing that not having winning a season isn't success? I don't
Some people said
there's
12
a lot
wins.
of negatives in there.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people said 12 wins, whatever. I get people want, like, I don't think anybody would disagree with me that a winning season is like successful, right? But where my difference is from you, Austin, and like my difference from the chat, and the reason that we've had this whole conversation is I do not believe that Will Levis alone being a successful player means the Titans had a successful season. I think the team as a whole winning games is far more important to my definition of success than the performance of one individual.
Yep.
And that is my point. So
we have a lot of super chats.
We got to get to the super chats. Got to move
football
on.
Season, which means we have super chat. Hell yeah. Amnesia comes in big, $20. Appreciate that, Amnesia. Everyone thinks the Titans are going to be bad this year, yet they won 6 games last season with less and the worst O-line in the NFL. The biggest measure of success this year will be O-line improvement. It starts there. Like, I think it's a good comment. I mean, again,
you could make that argument though. Like, your argument. This is your argument in different format. The idea that, like, if the offensive line improves, Will Levis will therefore improve. The offense will therefore improve. It builds something that you can work on in the future.
If Will Levis is good and checks that box, then that means the offensive line was improved. The receivers, the running backs, the play calling, the system, the scheme, everything was improved because Will Levis succeeded.
I do agree with the beginning of this comment. I think the NFL world is a little bit low
because they're out on 8.
I don't have to look at the schedule to know I'm going to bet on BetMGM the over on 6.5. I feel very good about that, and just saying, like, if they don't hit that over, it was a disaster. Like, you cannot go 6-11 again. You are so much better than you were last year at so many different positions that there has to be a win-loss like benefit, like that has to translate somewhat into your record. So I will be on the over. I don't have to look at the schedule to know that.
All right, more super chats. Amnesia comes back with another. He says, I'm with Sam. Then said the lowest bar should be the best in the division to be better than the guys they replaced, nothing less. So upping the ante on being the AFC South champions is that.
I think there's a line between standards and success, right? Like, your standard as an NFL team is always to be the best. Every team wants to win the Super Bowl, wants to win the division. There is a level of realism that we have to have for the Titans this year, and understanding that the Texans might be one of the better teams in the league if things hit how the Texans are currently projected to hit. I think you can go 10-7 with this Titans team, not win the division. You could get into the playoffs at 10-7 and still be like, wow, what a successful season in year 1 of Brian Callahan. Is that the end goal? No, absolutely not. You don't want to just be a 10-7 cap team, but there is a world where they are very successful as an organization and not necessarily the AFC South champion.
Yeah. I mean, it's the old saying, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Exactly.
So Brandon comes in with a super chat here. How many games do the Titans give Levis to prove he's the guy? Or how many games do we, the audience, give Levis to prove that he's the guy? I think this is Sam, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and I'm going to text this to you because I think this is about a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think how many games the Titans give Levis as the starter?
Well, I think there's two different questions because he says the word we.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who we is because a lot of fans in the chat say we meaning the Titans, or is it we the audience of the Titans?
The small, like the quick answer here is 17 in the sense that like I don't think, and Brian Callahan has said this before, I don't think Will Levis's progression needs to be linear. I don't think it needs to be like, oh, here's where he's at after week 8 and he's not here, therefore he's not the guy. I also think because he has a good 3 weeks to start the season doesn't mean he is the guy. I think this season will end up having to be a year that we look back on. He starts the whole year. He plays the whole season unless there's some crazy, right? He's ridiculously bad and you feel like
this isn't Marcus Mariota going into 2019 with Ryan Tannehill as the backup. There's no leash.
I mean, you do have an established backup, but like you're not an aging team and so I think you're gonna play Levis the whole year, and unless he stinks and you're like around 500 and you're like, we need a quarterback upgrade to make the playoffs here, I think he still plays the whole season. And then I think we look back at the whole season as a whole and you make your judgments that way and not necessarily on like a deadline basis.
Yeah, I think it's at minimum the full season. And Vanessa says y'all are crazy saying it's not a full year or two. I think it's a minimum.
He definitely gets the full year for me. I'm not going to sit here in a bad first 4 games be like, yeah, Will Levis, not the guy.
So Brandon clarifies another super chat. Appreciate the extra super chat there. He says he's talking about the fans, the audience. I love that. I don't think
the fans will have the same mentality as us.
Because Marcus Mariota was in year 5 when he had the leash pulled, right? That's different than going into year 2 when you only played 9
and like you said, it wasn't a full rookie season. It was 9 games. And so Will gets an extended look here for year 2. I think historically in the NFL, you don't get into year 3 to prove it. Like, I think year 2 is the year to prove it. When you look at the track record of
year 2 is playing, right? Like if you're sitting
year 2 playing it, like this is the year to prove it. But I also don't think we sit here at week 8 and be like, oh, Levis could be better and be like, he's not the guy. We're done. We're out on him. Right. Like he gets a full season to show what one full season of Will Levis as a starting quarterback and all of those ebbs and flows looks like.
All right, King VC, lock in, like the show. Number 2, having a standard of bare minimum 9 wins, not crazy. He agrees with Sam. Like I don't think it's crazy by any means. I just got a little bit different thought on it, I think what's what makes the show.
I was getting bullied. I had to fight back and get my. I just had to encourage my supporters. I had the Sammy Shower supporters out there to get vocal in the chat a little bit.
Rally the troops. Law is incredible. This is a new YouTube name. I'm not familiar with this one. I don't know if you've seen Law is incredible on YouTube, but thanks for watching. Appreciate the super chat. Says you guys are at practice all the time. What's your gut feeling on Levis? Is he the guy or not based on what you see day in, day out? Again, I think this is another 30-minute conversation. We don't have time for
quick answer because he did drop the super chat. My gut on Levis right now is that there are still a lot of issues with Will Levis. I think the talent is clear all the time. The thing that I feel encouraged about going into the season is I think the scheme will be much improved. And Brian Callahan has already kind of shown in what Malik Willis looked like in the preseason that him and his staff are able to slowly tinker with some of these quarterbacks and improve them. And so I believe that, it won't be perfect from Levis this year, but I don't think the version of Will Levis we see this year is going to be Will Levis at his ceiling. I think Brian Callahan getting that out of Will is going to take maybe 2-3 years for him to like fully become the guy we think he can be. I think we will see signs of it. I think we will see signs of immaturity in the way that Will plays the game sometimes and some flaws to his game. But if the scheme is improved and you make life easier on your quarterback, you can really harness some of that ability behind the scenes and, it'll pay off on the back end.
Yeah, I agree. Will Levis has all the tools that he needs to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. But I could also have all the tools in my garage to build a deck. Doesn't mean I'm out there building a deck. I have to be taught how to use the tools appropriately to be successful, and that takes time. And I think Will Levis is on his way to being able to utilize all of his tools and skills to be a very good quarterback. It's just how long does that take?
Yeah, I've asserted from the draft and the pre-draft process that I do think Will Levis is a guy. I think he's a franchise quarterback in the NFL. I think he can consistently be above average. Where that ceiling is the question. And ultimately, it probably took a guy like Brian Callahan coming into Tennessee and the right coaching staff around Will to get that sort of performance out of him, but he definitely has it in him. I think that is clear to us at practice and clear to even Titans fans that watch the games. So
yeah, Vanessa says, you don't seem handy. I'm guessing I'm actually fairly handy. Like
you strike
I just don't
handy.
Huh?
You strike me as handy.
Yeah, I'm a pretty handy guy. Like my grandfather did construction, built houses as a contractor. My dad followed in that same pathway too. I've been on job sites since I was walking. I tell you what, the smell of cigarettes and sawdust mixed together wakes me up in the morning, makes you go, there's some good work getting done here.
Nice.
that is a smell. And if you know what I'm talking about, the blend of cigarettes and sawdust.
Nothing like cigarettes and sawdust in the morning.
Blend it up together and you're like, there's some people sweating and working hard out here today. So look, I'm decently handy, but I don't have the tools. I would be more handy if I had more of the tools.
I was going to say, Malachi, that coffee is in the mix too. It's like black coffee, cigarettes, and sawdust.
Yeah. Eric says he works construction, and you know exactly what I'm talking about with the cigarettes and sawdust. Yeah. Willie Jean says, maybe I'm coming out with Austin Stanley fragrance, cigarettes and sawdust. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't actively do anything with a saw. So that's not my own fragrance, but it is one of those underrated smells that you're like, I like this. Like, I like the smell of, it's weird. It's like football locker room. I dig that smell. That makes me feel at home. I know other people think it's absolutely disgusting, but no, football locker room smells good to me. Just like I'm sure baseball gloves smells great to you, right?
Yeah, but baseball gloves actually smell good. It's leather.
Yeah, with a lot of others. Like I like gasoline. I think gasoline smells good, right? Some people don't like it.
Yeah.
I think cigarettes and sawdust.
Objectively, like football locker room BO is like not a good smell.
I'm not talking about the BO part. I'm talking about like what the pads and the equipment, like that. There's just something about it. Smells. It makes me feel home.
Okay.
That
nice. Okay.
There you go. All right.
Do we have any other super chats? Or are we good?
No, that's all the super chats.
All right,
I believe.
hell yeah.
Cut off for super chats because I don't want to. We got to wrap up this show. We got stuff to do here throughout the day. All right, but it is time to wrap up our week with our good news. If you have good news in the chat, maybe you just want to. You have good news?
I forgot about good news. Like just in the sense that we were doing it like in the show today because we're an hour and 17 minutes into the show. That's my bad.
So good news. If you have good news or smells that you think are good, you can drop that.
Nice stretching.
WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see our friend Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon or online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. If you have good news for the chat, share that good news in the chat. So Sam, do you see any good news to get to?
My wife and I had a daughter last Thursday after losing a baby in October, born on Rainbow Baby Day, oddly enough.
Wow. Well, congrats to you guys.
Congrats,
I'm sure
John.
It's been a very, intense year for you all, but congratulations to John and his wife.
Yeah. Eric says good news, Colorado won and they'll be hyped up all season. They barely beat North Dakota State. I wouldn't be super hyped about that.
I am for website purposes. Bring it on, baby.
Hey, Colorado, man. Dion should probably try recruiting like defensive players once in a while because
or a better offensive lineman besides Jordan Seaton. He got
two good receivers, a quarterback, one O lineman, and then like one corner and one inside backer. And he was like, yeah, which is good.
That'll work. That'll work.
No, it will not. You got a bunch of 2 stars walking around. Oh man. Let's see. Brandon's new job working out great. Let's go. Great
There you go,
news.
Brandon. Yeah.
Vanessa fingernail polish matched her Titan blue jersey. Let's go. Sometimes it's the big stuff. It's the big stuff, Vanessa.
That is the big stuff.
Let's see. No work today. 4-day weekend for Rooney.
Ooh,
very nice. We got 3-day weekend from Chris, who's also enjoying Monday, going to get Monday off. Deshaun got a $5 raise last week. Big congrats to Deshaun. That's very good news.
Yeah.
The 10th birthday for Clayton, and he's leaving for Walt Disney World. Austin, have you been to Walt Disney World?
Yes, once. Well, I don't know which one's Disney World versus Disneyland.
Florida is Disney World.
I've been to that one. I've been to Disney World once. I want to say I was 12-ish, 13, something like that.
What park did you hit?
I don't know.
Okay.
I went on Space Mountain. I remember that. I did the Robinson family tree.
Space Mountain is going to be Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
So you were probably in the basic park. Yeah.
Yeah, I got pooped on by a bird at the tree. It hit me on the shoulder. Those are my
your memories of Disney.
Yeah.
I love Disney. Big Disney guy. Disney World specifically. Like I just get happy at Disney World. It's a good spot. I don't know. Let's see. We got first week of law school. Let's go, Aaron. Nice. In the bag already. So completed that first week of law school. Let's see. Bork wants to know no show Monday. That is correct.
Hey, no show Monday. That's absolutely right.
Austin, do you have good news?
My mom says that we went to all the Orlando ones. So thanks, Mom, for clearing that up.
Oh, you hit all 4 of them. There you go.
I remember getting pooped on. So
you got to hit as many of them as possible.
Money well spent by my parents. I remember Space Mountain because my brother was technically too short to ride it. And
I feel like that's every kid's like favorite ride because it's like the closest to like a roller coaster. It's very thrilling.
And I remember my dad had to hold my brother down so he didn't fly out because he was too small. And then I got pooped on by a bird. So
I would like to go back to Disney because there's a lot of new stuff. They got the Star Wars stuff. I haven't been since they added a lot of like the new cool stuff. So
yes. My good news is the fact that we have no show on Monday. And it's like the last day off that we're going to have, like truly until Thanksgiving. Veterans Day, sorry about you. Columbus Day, sorry about you. But Thanksgiving and Black Friday are our next days off without shows. But I will kind of do this because I'm going to promote a couple things as my good news. Sam, you and I are going to be at DeAndre Hopkins football camp on Sunday. We're going to have some exclusive opportunity to interview and chat with D-Hop at the camp. That'll be up on our YouTube probably Sunday evening for you guys to check out. So that'll be really fun because we're getting that exclusive that time with D-Hop. And then tomorrow the Vols play. And we have back again for year 4, season 4, the combination of Jonathan Crompton, former Vols quarterback, and Charlie Burris, Knoxville personality, to be hosting our halftime and post-game show for every Tennessee Vols game this season. Going to be a ton of fun. Crompton is super good at breaking down college football and the Vols. I mean, if you have not watched that yet, Cromp is great. He's a high school football head coach. He played a lot of quarterback in his years, was all SEC under Kiffin his last year at Tennessee back in the day, and he's just a really good guy. So he and Charlie, always entertaining. It's a great combo. So that kickoff is like just before noon tomorrow. So make sure you're watching on this YouTube channel. So halftime post-game show for the Vols. Those are my 2 good newses. So Sunday content, Saturday content. It is 7 days a week for A to Z Sports moving forward.
Yeah. My good news is pretty kind of similar to yours, kind of similar to some of the chat. It's not just Labor Day with the Monday with no show, but I love this weekend, like the Labor Day weekend in the NFL calendar where there is no game to cover, Austin. I love football. I love covering the games. I love, game days, especially when the regular season is here. But training camp is a grind. And especially when, you're out at practice every day. Like, I have not had a weekend in 5 weekends now. Like, it's been practice on Saturday or game on Saturday or press conference or game on Sunday and practice on Sunday, whatever it is. So I'm excited to having like tomorrow, which is just a Saturday where I don't have a practice to cover or a game to go to. And I'm looking forward to that. So it's a combination of the Labor Day weekend, but also just, a cool, I mean, we do have a practice kind of to cover on Sunday with the DeAndre Hopkins football camp, but having an open Saturday is my good news.
Great. I've actually got some more good news because I'm also an idiot. Thank you, Carrie, for mentioning this. Good news. A to Z is covering more college sports.
Yeah, missed opportunity there.
That's right. What a dumbass for me. But hey, here we go. A to Z has expanded. If you missed it yesterday, more college football expansion. How about that? Look at them logos. Maybe have to rank those logos later on. But introducing our coverage for Oklahoma, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas. We've already had Tennessee, but adding Michigan, LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, Oregon, and the Georgia Bulldogs. So pumped about that. If you want to check out our college football website coverage and more video coverage to come as well, that's happening, and it's off to a great start. So all 32 teams. Now we've got 11 total college teams. So why not? We're going to keep on adding those. And Cap says sick logos. Shout out to whoever designed those. That's what Zach's been doing this whole time. He's just been doing that in his Microsoft Paint app.
One logo a week.
No, I'm kidding. But Zach did do some great work on that logo. He did not design them, but he worked with our designer that's done all of our logos over the years. And so, yeah, pretty pumped about that. Karen says, add Auburn, please. Auburn didn't make the cut. I will say Auburn was really close.
It was Auburn, Illinois.
No, it was not Illinois.
College football playoff team. That's weird.
We'll see. All right, guys, that is it for us. Don't forget the D-Hop football camp is coming up on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. So go check that out right there. The link is in the chat. It's also on our Twitter account right there to go sign up for $43 when you use our code ATOZ20. And make sure you hit the like button on the way out the door on Facebook and on YouTube. That goes a long way for us. And the next time we will see you, it will be from DeAndre Hopkins football camp, and it'll be kicking off a Titans game week. Have a great, safe weekend. See you on Tuesday. No show Monday for Labor Day. Appreciate it as always.